After a long day at work, I decided to stop by a bar near the office. Just to have a beer, relax and not think about bills and endless tasks. Everything had been piling up lately, more and more demands at work, no better at home. Emma was acting strangely, too, silent, not sharing her thoughts, as if she were in her shell. I walked into the bar and immediately felt that strange contrast between the cheerful voices inside and the silence in my head. I sat down at the counter and ordered my usual. I was just about to take my first sip when I noticed a familiar figure in the corner. Chris. I couldn't believe my eyes. He was sitting on the very edge, staring down at an empty mug, his hair disheveled, his eyes blank. Chris had been my best friend since I was a kid. We grew up together, went to the same school. He'd once been the guy who always knew how to lighten the mood. But now there was a completely different person sitting in front of me. I walked over, sat next to him. "Dude, are you okay?" I asked cautiously. He looked up at me. Red, swollen with tears. "I got kicked out," he mumbled. "Kicked out where?" I didn't understand. "Out of the apartment," Chris said quietly. "I don't live there anymore." He clutched the rest of the money in his hand, a few crumpled bills and some change. I quickly deduced what had happened. Chris had never been one to plan ahead. Jobs, yes, but he never stayed anywhere for long. Girls came and went quickly. It was all to be expected, but seeing him so confused was another thing entirely. "Are you saying you have no place to live at all?" I asked. He only nodded. I was a little confused. "Sure, this is Chris, my best friend, but how can I help him?" In the end, I said the first thing that came to mind. "Look, here's the deal. Let's go to my place. You spend the night, we'll figure out what we're gonna do." "Are you serious?" He looked at me hopefully. "Sure," I smiled. "I won't let you spend the night on the street." We left the bar and I caught a cab. Chris was silent on the way, as if trying to process what was happening. I didn't know how to explain all this to Emma either. She's a rational person, plans everything out. Letting a guy with problems into the house was clearly not her idea of comfort. As we pulled up to the house, I turned to Chris. "Don't worry about it, we'll figure it out." Emma. "Well, she'll understand." As soon as we entered the apartment, Emma looked out of the kitchen. "What are you doing up so late?" she asked grumpily, but then she spotted Chris. "Oh, hi." "Hi," Chris smiled uncertainly. I quickly explained the situation. Emma listened silently, but her gaze was eloquent. When I was done, she nodded briefly. "Good. Let him stay. Just on the couch." Chris squeezed out a smile and looked at me appreciatively. "Thanks, guys," he said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done without you guys." Emma went into the kitchen, and I showed Chris the living room. I laid out the couch, gave him the linens. He collapsed on the cushions as if he couldn't believe his happiness. When I went into the kitchen, Emma was already making tea. "Do you have any idea what's going on?" she whispered. "He's just broken," I answered. "You know Chris. He's always been so careless. You're too kind, Matt. You don't have to carry his problems around with you. He's my friend. If not me, then who?" Emma sighed and put the mug down on the table. "Okay. But he can't live here forever. We don't have to solve other people's problems." I nodded. She was right, but leaving him now felt like a betrayal. I'd known Chris since he was a kid, seen him through all of life's troubles. But to not help him now would be unfriendly. The next day I went to work, leaving Chris at home. Emma gave him a list of things to do: take out the trash, mop the floors, cook dinner. I laughed, that's the level of trust. When I returned, dinner was on the table, fried chicken and potatoes. "You cooked?" I asked in surprise. Chris was embarrassed. "Yes. Well, as a thank you." Emma showed me how. She came out of the bedroom and sat next to me. Chris looked at her with such respect, as if she had saved him from death. "Thank you both," he said, looking at us. "You are true friends." Emma smiled. I felt a warm sense of pride. We'd done a good thing. Chris had finally found some stability. That evening, the three of us watched an old movie, and I noticed Emma laughing at Chris's joke. I didn't think I'd heard her like that in a long time. I guess I was just glad that a friend had finally gotten out of the hole. As we sat on the couch, I caught myself thinking that maybe this phase would be over sooner than I thought. Chris would get a job, get an apartment, and everything would fall into place. I had no idea that this was just the beginning. The beginning of a chain of events that would shatter everything I knew about friendship and family. It had been a week. Chris was still staying with us, but it was as if he was more than just a guest. It was as if he had settled into our house as if he had always been here. I'm certainly glad he's back on his feet, but some things were starting to stress me out. Every day when I came home from work, I saw the same thing: Chris in the kitchen, cooking dinner, Emma setting out plates, both of them discussing something and laughing. I walk in, and for a couple seconds there's an awkward silence in the room. Then it's like they catch on and throw me a casual greeting. My first thought was, okay, they just hit it off. After all, we've all known each other for a long time, and Chris has always had a knack for finding common ground with people. But the more days went by, the more I felt like an extra in my own family. One day, I was working late. We had an urgent project, deadlines were looming, bosses were pushing. I texted Emma. I'm gonna be late. Don't wait up for dinner. The reply came 5 minutes later. Okay. Everything okay? Yeah. I just got caught up at work. When I got back, it was almost midnight. The house was dark, quiet. I tiptoed toward the bedroom, but noticed a light from the living room. I came closer and heard their voices. You're so funny, Emma laughed. Well, I'm a pro at silly jokes, Chris replies. I peeked in. They were sitting on the couch, watching an old sitcom that Emma and I had loved since college. Next to them was an empty bottle of wine. Chris said something, and she laughed so loudly that even I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her so relaxed. Hey, I said, walking into the room. Emma flinched and looked at me as if it was the first time she'd seen me all night. Oh, hey. You're early. Early. I glanced at the clock. Midnight. Chris rubbed his neck and stood up. I'm gonna go to bed. Good night, guys. I stayed where I was, feeling the irritation spreading through my veins. Emma collected her glasses and left for the kitchen. I followed her. What are you doing up so late? She asked. I was working. Did you guys have a party? She raised an eyebrow. Just watching a movie. You said you were going to be late. I said, don't wait up with dinner, not have a date. Emma frowned. Are you jealous? I swallowed. Of course I was jealous. But it's Chris, after all. My best friend. I tried to keep the stupid paranoia at bay. It was just, it's weird. I come home, and there's you and Chris. And it's like your family and I'm just a guest. She sighed. You're the one who asked him to stay. I told you I didn't want him to. But you insisted. So don't blame me now. I didn't say anything. She was right. I had brought him in. But now he seemed too comfortable in my world. The next day, I decided to take the day off and spend the day at home. I wanted to see how Chris behaved without my presence. In the morning, I told him I was going to a meeting and sat down to work in my room. Around noon I heard them in the kitchen discussing something, laughing. Then silence. I opened the door. Chris was helping Emma knead pie dough. They were standing side by side, close, as if it were their morning, not mine. Have you ever tried making it yourself? She asked. No. You know I'm more of a box pizza cook. They laughed. I closed the door and sat on the bed. Breathing became difficult. There was a distinct feeling that I had made some terrible mistake when I let him into our house. That evening, I tried to talk to Chris alone. Look, bro, I'm glad you're comfortable here, but, don't you think you've gotten a little too relaxed? Chris exhaled. Are you serious? I'm just helping out. You offered. I don't want to be a burden. I know you don't. But sometimes it feels like you get too comfortable. Like it's your home instead of mine. Chris is thinking. I'm sorry. I just, For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm part of something. Everywhere I've been before is just walls. This place is a family. Your family. I got a little carried away, I guess. His words made me feel like shit. I mean, he's genuinely grateful. But somehow the feeling of him invading my life didn't go away. It's okay, I said finally. Just, slow down a little bit, okay? He nodded. But a few days later, the situation happened again. Emma no longer consulted me on the smallest things. What to make for dinner? What movies to watch? It was all in tandem with Chris. It was like I was the third wheel in my own house. One day I walked into the bedroom and noticed a mug of tea on the bedside table. I never drank tea in the bedroom. It was her mug. And only then did it dawn on me, it was the morning I left for work. My thoughts swirled again in a whirlwind of jealousy and doubt. I stood in the semi-darkness, trying to pull myself together. Chris is my friend. Emma is my wife. I should be able to trust. But something inside was already screaming, "Wake up, Matt. Something's wrong." And that's when I made my decision, I had to find out the truth. And if my suspicions were true, the consequences would be worse than I'd ever imagined. When I got home from work in the evening, the house was unusually quiet. I called for Emma, but no one answered. I walked into the living room and saw her cell phone on the couch. Strange, she always carried it with her. At first I just wanted to move it to the nightstand, but the screen lit up and a message popped up. Tech, can't wait to be alone together again. My heart beat faster. Tech. We hadn't called anyone, had we? I picked up my phone and unlocked it, I knew the password by heart. The correspondence with this technician opened at once. My fingers trembled as I leafed up. The messages were simple: "How are you? I want to see you, today was cool," but each one hit my chest like a hammer. I came across a photo, Emma in the living room on the couch. Wearing a t-shirt that was clearly too big for her. I know that shirt, it belongs to Chris. I remembered the night I stayed late at work. They said they were just watching a movie and fell asleep on the couch. Feeling anger mixed with despair, I sat down on the couch. I felt dizzy. I was ready to throw my phone at the wall, but that's when Emma and Chris came back. I could hear their laughter from outside. I put the phone back down, trying not to give away my panic. I took a deep breath, trying to regain some of my composure. When the door opened, I was already sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea. "Hi," Emma said, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Oh, you're home." Chris looked a little surprised. I nodded. "How was your day?" she asked. "Fine," I answered, struggling to keep my voice steady. "How about you guys?" They looked at each other, and I saw Chris look away quickly. "Nothing much," Emma said, tucking her hair behind her ear. "We just went for a little walk." "Okay," I said. "You left your phone on the couch." She froze for a second. "Oh, right. Thanks for finding it." She tried to smile, but I could see her jaw tense. I wanted to tell her everything right now, show her the correspondence, throw accusations in her face. But something inside told me it wasn't time yet. I had to get to the bottom of this. I couldn't sleep at night. I lay staring at the ceiling with Emma breathing peacefully next to me. How could she? And Chris? My best friend. I invited him to our house, and he. I got up and walked into the living room. I sat on the same couch where they were laughing together. I remembered the words from the correspondence. Today was awesome. How long has this been going on? How much longer had I been lied to right to my face? The next morning, I couldn't help myself. At work, I called Sarah, Emma's friend. She was always outspoken and not afraid to tell the truth. "Sarah, hi. Can you talk to me?" Sure. What's up? You sound, weird. I think Emma's cheating on me. With Chris." The pause went on for a while. I could hear her breathing. "Matt. She said quietly. I don't know how to tell you this, but she's really been talking about him a lot lately. I thought it was just because you had him living with you. Did you know? I felt my insides clench. No. I swear. But I saw her with him a couple times at the coffee shop. I thought they were just friends. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to pry into your family. You know Emma's always been private. I hung up before she could apologize. My head was all messed up. I felt betrayed twice, by my wife and my friend. When I got home, Chris was already in the kitchen, frying an omelet. He smiled when he saw me. Hey, what's up? He said as if nothing had happened. I gritted my teeth to keep from blurting it out on the spot. I'm okay. Where's Emma? Out at the store. I took a deep breath. Chris. I need to talk to you. He froze for a second, then turned around. About what? About you. And her. His face darkened. He put the spatula down on the table and leaned against the counter. I don't know what you mean. Don't pretend you don't. I've seen the correspondence. I know about that photo on the couch. He didn't answer. Just put his head down, like he was collecting his thoughts. You could have just told me. And what would that have changed? He asked quietly. Everything, I answered. It would have changed everything. He turned to me, no anger in his eyes, just tiredness. It was an accident. I didn't mean to. She was alone, you're always at work. We were just talking. And somehow it happened. You slept with her. His voice trembled. He nodded. Once. And we both thought it was a mistake. But then. It just kind of dragged on. I took a step toward him, not knowing whether to hit him or just walk away. But I was empty inside. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you tell me you were in love with her? Because I was going to lose her anyway, he said quietly. And you, too. I turned around and left the house. I got in my car and drove off, not knowing where I was going. I stopped at a bar and drank myself into a stupor. Everything I'd ever known was gone. Family, friendship, it was all a lie. When I got home at dawn, Chris was gone. There was a note on the table. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to be like this. But it happened. I tore the sheet off and crumpled it up. There was only emptiness inside. The next day I felt wrecked. My whole body ached after a night in the car. I still couldn't get home. My head was rattling, my thoughts were jumbled, and my anger was still simmering inside. I couldn't realize how long they'd been lying to me. How could I not have noticed? When I did get home, Emma was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, looking depressed and tired. She wasn't even surprised to see me. Where have you been? She asked quietly. Never mind, I replied, tossing my keys on the table. Where's Chris? He left, she said briefly. Said it was for the best. We didn't say anything. I didn't know where to start. My mind was replaying all the scenes I'd seen through the window. How they'd laughed on the couch, how they'd cooked dinner together. And now I realized why I thought Emma had changed. She was just with him. Why didn't you say anything? I finally asked, clenching my fists. Didn't know how to say it, she looked away. You didn't know. I'm your husband. I took him in because he was in trouble, and you, my voice trembled, and I felt the blood rush to my face. Do you have any idea what that looks like? Emma wrapped her arms around her head, as if she couldn't bear to have this conversation. I didn't mean to. I thought I was just helping him. And then it just kind of happened. You were at work. I was alone. He was there for me, and I felt like he understood. Understands? I couldn't help being sarcastic. Understands what? That you're tired of being with me? That you need someone else? She sobbed. I love you, Matt. She whispered. No, you don't, I said. If you did, you wouldn't have let it happen. Suddenly my phone rang. I looked at the screen and it was Luke, my coworker. I didn't want to pick up the phone, but it was the second time he'd called in a row. What? I answered irritably. Matt, where are you? We're waiting for you at the meeting, remember? Luke's voice was agitated. I'm not coming, I blurted out. Did something happen? You don't sound good. I couldn't take it anymore, and without thinking, I blurted it out. Luke, have you ever found out that your best friend is sleeping with your wife? He stopped talking. I heard him sigh. Shit. Are you serious? Yeah, I whispered, covering my eyes with my hand. Is that Chris? He asked quietly. Yeah. I took him in, gave him a roof over his head, and he. Matt, look, I know it sounds stupid, but sometimes people do bullshit when they lose themselves. Maybe he's just caught up in your life because he doesn't have one of his own. And that's why he slept with my wife. I laughed evilly. No, of course not. I just. You know Chris has always been like that. Takes what's not good for him. But Emma's not a bad lay, Luke. She's my wife. I almost screamed into the phone. I'm sorry, Matt. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe give yourself some time. I threw the phone on the couch and looked at Emma. She was already standing by the door, packing her things into her bag. Are you leaving? I asked. I don't know what else to do. You look at me like I'm the enemy. How am I supposed to look at you? As the woman who betrayed everything we've built. She stood at the door without turning around. You were always good. But sometimes I felt like your work was more important than me. And Chris just, was there for me when I was sick. You could have told me you were sick, I whispered. I tried, but you were too busy doing your own thing. I'm not making excuses. I just want you to know. I didn't know what to say. Torn between rage and pain. The jealousy was still simmering inside me, but I couldn't get a word out. Emma walked silently out of the house. I heard her car door slam and watched her drive away without looking back. I sat down on the floor in the hallway, feeling devastated. Luke's words were rolling around in my head, maybe he's just caught up in your life because he doesn't have a life of his own. How could I not see that my relationship with Emma was cracking at the seams? All this time I thought I was doing everything right, working, making plans, supporting my friends. But in the end, I was a stranger in my own home. A couple hours later, I plucked up the courage to call Chris. He picked up on the second ring. Matt. I don't know what to do, I admitted, trying to keep my voice steady. I just wanted to help, Chris said quietly. I didn't know it would come out like this. Help? You stole my family, I gritted my teeth. I know you did. And I hate myself for it. What am I supposed to do now? How do I live with it? He didn't say anything. I could feel that he was broken, too. I'm leaving, he finally said. I think it's the best thing I can do. Where to? I don't know yet. But definitely away from you. You broke everything we had, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. I'm sorry. I disconnected the call. The wall I was looking at felt like it was leaning over me. I was alone. Everything I knew about friendship and love turned out to be a lie. A week had passed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Emma didn't come back. I didn't call her. Chris had gone somewhere, leaving a short letter on the nightstand. Matt, I don't apologize. I know I betrayed you. I just lost myself and I didn't realize I was ruining your life. You were like a brother to me. I hope someday you find the strength to move on. Chris. I stared at that note crumpled in my hand and didn't know how to react. The anger wasn't so bright anymore. The emptiness remained. I walked around the rooms and saw signs of their presence, Chris's jacket on the coat rack, the old blanket on the couch, her favorite cracked teacup. It all reminded me that my life would never be the same again. One night I decided to call Emma. I held the phone in my hands for a long time before pressing the call button. It took an agonizingly long time to ring. Finally, she answered. Matt? Her voice was quiet, like she was apologizing. I just wanted to see how you were, I squeezed out. I'm staying at Sarah's, she said briefly. Are you okay? Yeah. I'm just thinking. I didn't say anything, not knowing what to say. I was seething inside, but I wasn't so sure how I felt anymore. Was I wrong? Or was I right? Where's the line you can't cross? Do you ever come home? I asked. I don't know, she hesitated. I think about us. Everything. About how we lost each other without even noticing. I tried to be a good husband. I tried, Emma, my voice shook. I know you did. I tried, too, she replied. But I felt like I was drowning. You were always somewhere far away. Even when you were near. And Chris just listened. So you decided to sleep with him? Was that a way out? She sobbed. I'm not looking for excuses. It was a mistake. I just, wanted to feel alive. And now I'm dead inside, I said quietly and disconnected my phone. The next day I decided to go to work. How long could I sit at home and feel sorry for myself? Luke came up to me at the coffee machine. How are you? He asked me gently. I don't know. It's like living in a black and white movie with all the sounds muted. It's hard, isn't it? Aha. I sipped my coffee and stared at the computer screen, trying to distract myself. Have you decided what to do next? No. I think we should just give ourselves time. Luke nodded. Maybe you need to go somewhere. Reboot. Maybe. But inside I knew, wherever I went, the memories would come with me. That night I went to our old social media page. Pictures from our wedding, vacations to the coast, our first apartment. I stared at the pictures for a long time, remembering how things used to be. My hand reached out to delete those photos, but I couldn't. I just closed the page and got up from the table. There was a knock on the door. I opened it. Emma stood on the doorstep. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside silently. She sat down on the couch, fidgeting with her fingers. I don't know how to tell you, but I don't want to ruin everything. It's too late, Emma. I realize I've hurt you. But, I love you. You've always been my rock, even when I didn't realize it. I sat across from her, trying not to show my emotions. You broke us, Emma. I don't know if I can trust you again. She nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. I understand. If you want a divorce, I won't mind. Do you want to leave? No. But if it makes you feel better, I understand. We sat in silence for a long time. I didn't know whether it was right to try to rebuild or to break the bond. There was anger, love and bitterness fighting inside. A week later we decided to see a marriage counselor. We both realized that this situation was not going to resolve itself. We needed to see if we had a chance for a fresh start. At the first meeting I was reserved, I didn't want to give away my emotions. Emma was crying, talking about how lonely she felt. I couldn't believe that the man I was building a family with could make such a mistake. But I also realized that somewhere along the way I had lost sight of her. The psychologist asked. What's more important to you, keeping the relationship alive or letting go of resentment? I wondered. If I chose the latter, it would mean admitting that it was over. And I wasn't ready. I want to try again, I said quietly. Emma looked at me as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You do? Yes. I don't know if I can forgive you. But I want to see if we can be a family again. It's been 2 months. We're still working on our relationship. Sometimes I catch myself still being angry. But in those moments, Emma just comes over and hugs me. We talk to each other more than we ever have. I didn't see Chris anymore. He moved to another city and deleted his social media profile. I don't know if I can forgive him. But one thing I do know is that I won't let anyone else that close to my family. Sometimes people make mistakes. But the hardest part is deciding whether it's worth it to fight for those who once hurt you.